Hi and welcome to our class on vocabulary for IBPS Clerk examination. So we've seen that your vocabulary is tested in quite a few places. The previous class, we saw that your vocabulary is extremely important in answering questions of antonyms and synonyms. Those are your direct vocabulary questions. Okay, so we also saw a few questions on sentence completion where you need to know the meaning of the word and the contextual usage in order to plug the gap. Okay, so you are given a sentence where there are gaps and it's your job to find out which word or words fit in the gaps in the given sentence, right? Today we are looking at another avenue of vocabulary usage in your IBPS examinations, okay, and that is your Cloze test, okay. Now, what is a Cloze test? It is nothing but an extension of your sentence completion. If sentence completion has one sentence with blanks and you're given options to fill up these blanks, your Cloze test is nothing but a paragraph that is given with some blanks, okay, and these blanks will have to be filled up by by choosing the right word from the given options. Now, in a Cloze test, you need to figure out the basic premise of the given paragraph in order to get the words for all of these blanks. Now, that is very important. The whole picture, the entire passage has to be read, and then you need to choose the answers for these. Got it? So we'll look at an example. Okay, the reason the North Star is so dash for natural navigation is that it sits directly over the North Pole. Now, I've told you that you need to read the entire passage in one go and then come back to solving. Okay, so the reason the North Pole is so dash for natural navigation, I'm looking for a word that means important here. Makes sense? Okay, so that it sits directly over the North Pole. Something that people often dash is that whenever you are trying to find true north, you're actually trying to find the dash of the North Pole from wherever you are. Even if you are only dash a few hundred meters on a gentle walk, north is still just dash for towards the North Pole. Okay, so we understand the crux of the passage is about finding your direction, your navigation with the North Star. The North Star is up on the sky, okay, and the North Star helps you navigate, true north. Okay. Now, I assume that you are aware of the Earth's North Pole and South Pole and the magnetic North Pole and South Pole. Correct? So, let's look at the options. Okay. Before we look at the options, I told you that one, probably a word that means important. It's completely necessary. Not even necessary, I would say it's recommended that you have a fair idea of what to expect from these options so that it's easier for you to pick and choose. Okay, so for two, something that people often wonder, something that means that. Okay, so I would have wonder. You're actually trying to find the dash of the North Pole. Something to do with direction, okay, even if you are only something, okay, that means just, correct, and then north is still just short, correct, short for towards the North Pole. Okay, now look at these options for option one. You have vital, which means important. Okay, so this is probably your answer, but that being said, let's just look at the other options. Then there is penitentiary. Now, penitent, all of this, they are root words for looking for pardon, okay, from which you get penury, okay, penitentiary. A penitentiary is nothing but a prison, okay, and then penitent is repentant. The word repent comes from the same root, okay. So this is definitely not the answer. This has nothing to do with repent, penitentiary notions. Then apathetic. Path is the root word for feelings. Okay. Apathy is lack of feelings. Sympathy and empathy are the opposite of that. Okay. And then there is antipathy. Antipathy is extreme hatred. Empathy and sympathy, when you actually feel for someone and you feel gentle, kind, compassionate, that is sympathy or empathy, while antipathy is hatred. Okay, path is the root word. Pathos, that's the root word actually. Okay. Then quaint means old. Okay, so we realize that A is the answer for option 1. Then look at this. Something that people often, we are looking for something that means wonder, etc. They are not sure, uncertain. Forget, forage. We all know what forget is. Okay, forage is to try and find. For example, hunter-gatherers were foragers. They went around the jungles and they looked for food. That is foraging, looking for food, finding food. Foot. We all know the noun foot. What is the meaning of the verb foot? Because it's very, it's appropriate that we have a verb here, correct? Look at the context. Something that people often, people is a subject, and we have an adverb here in often. So we are definitely looking at a verb here, correct? And here it was very evident that we were looking for an adjective. Okay, so foot the verb, what does it mean? When you foot the bill, it means you pay the bill. Got it? Figure, we all know what figure out is, and then you have follow. Okay. So something that comes close to wonder, okay, something that people try to put these words here. It's definitely not forage, it's not foot, it's not follow, okay. Now look at this, something that people often forget is that whenever you're trying to find the true north, you're actually trying to find the blah blah blah. Now look at this, something that people often figure is that whenever you're trying to find true north, you're actually finding, yeah. And then follow. Follow does not make any sense. Forget, because look at the next phrase, you're actually trying to find the dash from wherever you are, blah blah blah. So it tends to explain what happens when you're trying to find the north direction, correct? So forget is a better fit. You're not wrong when you say figure is right, but because of the explanation that happens later on in the next phrase, you're better off. The best option here is forget. So A is your answer. Then look at this. You're actually trying to find the dash of the North Pole. I'm trying to figure out where the North Pole is. There is orientation. What is orientation? This fits in exactly in this particular place, okay. So orientation is how it is directed, how it is placed. Then location, and then coordinates, direction, none of the above. I would go with I'm wrong here. It cannot be orientation, because orientation is to do with the magnets, okay. the north and south placement, but when you're looking at the pole in itself, you're better off with direction, the direction of the north pole. Okay, look at this, you're trying to find the direction of the north pole from wherever you are. This is extremely important, and this goes on to say that it is direction that you're looking for and not orientation. Orientation is to do with the magnet, okay, of the compass. Then location, no, it's not just location. See, I'm not interested, when I want to go north, I'm not interested in the location of the north pole. I'm looking at the direction of the north pole, okay, because that would lead me up north. Coordinates, no, it doesn't make any sense here. So the answer here is D for direction. And then 4, even when you are a dash few meters on a gentle walk. Exiting north. When you're exiting north, you're not looking at the north pole. Entering, perhaps, okay, when you're entering north. But contextually, it doesn't make much sense. Then there is heading, okay. Just a minute. Sorry for the disturbance. We were just facing some noise interference issues, I guess. I hope it is sorted. Just raise it to us when you find that there is noise at the reception end. Okay. So look at this. Even when you are only a few hundred meters on a gentle walk, entering, heading towards. Okay. Heading is perfect. It is better than entering. Okay. You don't enter north. You actually head north, okay, because in this case north acts as an adverb, okay. You enter a hall, okay. Typically enter is used with a noun. You enter the park, you enter the building. Park, building, these are nouns, but north here is an adverb. You head north, meaning you actually go in the direction of north. C is your answer here. Now north is still just dash for North Pole, short. It is just short for towards the North Pole. Got it? Okay. So now we come to the previous session's contest question. I hope you had a good run with it, but I didn't see any answers. So let's discuss this. I am looking for a dash apartment to rent in Kekinagar. Okay. Now remember that typically when you're looking for a deal, it is common sense to look for something that is value for money. Correct? Okay. Now look at this. Steep means expensive. And then there is pedantic. Pedantic means dull, mundane, pedestrian, something very commonplace, okay, something boring. I'm definitely not looking for a boring apartment, okay. And then dear. Dear is also expensive. There are, okay, so dear in this context means expensive. Something that is very dear or dearly priced means it is expensive. That's the meaning, okay. So we all know when we write a letter, hi, dear Deepa, okay, or my dear daughter, okay. So in this case, it is a very different endearing term, correct? But it also has another meaning. Dear means expensive. The house was beautiful, but it cost him dearly. Okay. Then there is affordable. Affordable means nothing but something that is within my means, something that I can actually go ahead and rent. So D is the best option here. It's a very simple question. Okay, so D is the answer here. Now without any further delay, we'll also look at today's contest question. Good luck before we go ahead with that. In order to crack your close passages, it is very important that you have a very good grasp of vocabulary, correct? So in order to learn vocabulary, the last class we saw a very good, strategy to ace your vocabulary lessons, correct? And that was studying the root word that gives rise to this particular word, correct? So typically when you look at roots, it gives rise to a family of words that have this root in common. Okay. For example, look at this, sink. Okay. Now sink is Latin for, okay, look at this, when a few things happen at the same time or in the same way, they are in sync. Okay. Now this is a shortening of the word synchronize, but it's used alone nowadays as a verb. Okay. So you'll have to sync your files, or we are in sync together, meaning we have the same wavelength or we match each other. Okay. Now look at the word synchronize. Chron is to do with time. Sync is to put it in the same time, so on and so forth. So synchronize is, look at this, when a few things happen at the same time or they are in, okay, they're just in sync. Sim, okay, and sin, those are the root words here along with chron. Okay. Now a synopsis is a summary of something like a movie or a play. That is synopsis. Any other words that we've just seen the word sympathy, correct? Sim means same, and then path is feeling. Okay, so you feel for someone like it's happening to you, or you put empathy also is very similar here. Now the difference between sympathy and empathy is, let's say someone is in pain and I go to him and say, oh, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. I really wish that, I really hope that you recover very soon. Okay, that is sympathy. Empathy is when I put myself in his shoes and then feel for him. Okay, feel for his pain, feel bad that he's going through all this. That is empathy. Synopsis and summary are actually synonyms. Okay, synonym, same word, same name. Okay, now here nim is the root word for name. Okay, from which you get synonym, synonym. Okay, synonym is same name, meaning, okay, for example, any synonyms? Agile and fast. Okay, so almost synonyms, they aren't exactly the same, but okay, for this particular example, these are synonyms, they mean the same. Okay, now let's also look at nim again. Nim is the root word, as I said, for name, pseudonym. Pseudo means false, false name, correct? So, that is the transliteration of pseudonym. What is a pseudonym? Let's look at this example. We all know who J.K. Rowling is. She's the lady who gave us Harry Potter, the author who wrote Harry Potter series, okay? Now, she also writes another series under the name Robert Galbraith. Now, Robert Galbraith is not a real person. It's just a pseudonym that Rowling makes use of to write her Strike series, Cormoran Strike. Okay, of which there are 3 books. The latest is Lethal White. Okay. So, that is a synonym, a false name. Pen name, it could also be incognito, that would be related. So, let's say J.K. Rowling comes to India and she books her hotel accommodation. She's probably not going to go under the name J.K. Rowling, fearing a lot of public gathering there and, you know, having to meet people impromptu. Okay, so she goes incognito. When someone travels with a false name, that is incognito. Okay, cog is the root word for know. Okay, so when no one knows that you're out and traveling, you're traveling incognito. Then look at this, lip sync. So when filmmaking today, okay, it does not involve direct recording. Okay, so a scene is being acted out. Okay, the the scene is recorded, the visual movements are recorded, but what happens is, to have proper sound, they dub for that in a dubbing room with proper sound control and all that, so that there is very less noise interference. Okay, so in that case, the scene is taken first, that's recorded first, and then they dub for the voice later on, and then they sync it together. What is the potential problem that can crop up here? I can say something now, but when I'm trying to dub and superimpose that on the scene, the lip sync might be off. Okay, so that is very visually visible. People are saying something, but I see something else. The lips aren't in sync with the dub voice. Synchronization, lip synchronization is missing. Look at this. That means they move their lips together with the music without actually creating the sounds themselves. So let's say I am on stage and I just say, okay, and music plays along. So for someone who sees me, it looks like I'm singing, but I'm just doing the lip sync. The sound is from elsewhere. Now look at this, part. A part is a piece of a whole, something that isn't complete. In verb form, to part means to divide or remove something. Okay, so verb form of part, now I'll part ways with you, meaning I'll remove myself with you, from you. Okay, I'll go my own way. So this is of Latin origin, partire or partiri, okay, which means to divide or share among others. Somebody impartial, okay, has no opinion about something. They take no part in the debate. Now, what are the synonyms for impartial? There can be unbiased. So when someone is partial, you know that you are, that they are a little biased. Okay, they have a good notion about someone, a bad notion about someone else. So when they act out, it's very evident. Hey, you know what? That director, well, I'm just partial to him. So even if he makes a bad movie, I will probably give it a good rating. Okay. On the other hand, I do not get along with this particular guy personally. So whatever he does, even if it is good, I am not going to give him a good review. Okay, so that's being biased. Unbiased is being objective, meaning I take no part in the debate. I am very objective. I do not have any personal inhibition that lets me be subjective. That is unbiased or impartial. That's where we started off with. Now look at this. You can be impartial about whether you live in a house or an apartment. I don't really care. Is it a house? Is it an apartment? I don't know. I'm just impartial. I don't have a say in it. An apartment is the result. Meant means result. Look at all the words that end with meant. Development. Okay, so something that develops, that is a development. Anything else? Apartment is something that we are seeing. Okay, the result of dividing a building into smaller spaces. A part. Okay, apartment. Meant is result. You take a part of a whole building, make an apartment out of it. Got it? Then look at this. Wherever you live, make sure it's safe. You wouldn't want to put your family in jeopardy, which is a dangerous situation, or according to the original definition, an evenly divided game. Jeopardy. Okay. Now, how many of you have seen the movie Double Jeopardy? If not, just go, watch it. It's a very good movie. Now, look at this. Jeopardy means dangerous situation. The verb form is jeopardize. You can also pronounce it jeopardize. Okay. So, it just depends on which part of the world you're from. Okay. So, jeopardy, then double jeopardy, then jeopardize. Jeopardy, jeopardize. Okay. So how would you put this in context, in words, in a sentence? I am in a sweet spot right now. I really like my job. I wouldn't want to jeopardize this with my business intentions and going on my own. Okay. So jeopardy, risking something. Then there is loft. Okay. A loft is a room right under the roof or very high up in a building. That's a loft. In India, when you have, a shelf on top of the room, that is called a loft. In Western countries, the loft is a room under the roof. Okay. Now remember that they build wooden homes, right? So what happens is, let's say this is the, the house. What they do is they have stairs and it leads to the loft. They have wooden boards here. This becomes the loft, while this is the actual house. So if this is the loft up there, okay, in some places it is called loft, other places it is called attic. Okay. The room above the rest of the house, or right on top. The opposite, that is, okay, if this is the house, this is the loft or attic. What is underneath is the cellar. Got it? So the kitchen is also called the pantry, or supplies for the kitchen, they are stored in a place called the pantry. So cellar is nothing but underneath, basement. You would have heard of the term wine cellar. So typically, wine is something that needs to be stored at a higher temperature or a lower temperature, I don't know. Okay. So for that, the cellar is, under the house, right? So there is some amount of temperature control that is involved right away. So wine is stored underneath. That's a wine cellar. So the loft is in a house is usually used for storage, but building lofts are rented out living spaces. Okay. Now, the old Norse word for air or sky was loft, which is written as loft in English. That's the origin. Okay. Now, what are the words that are associated with loft? Aloft. Okay. Something that is aloft is up in the air. Then, if something is very tall, we call it lofty. Okay. Typically, we use lofty ideals in a phrase. When you have lofty ideals, they are something that is just good on paper, and you have very high ideas about something, but that's not practical. That's lofty ambitions, lofty ideas. Lofty ambitions is, let's say I do not work out at all, and then I have great ambitions, and I tell myself that I'll run a marathon this month. That is a lofty ambition. Now look at this. Someone is lofty when he or she has a very high opinion of himself or herself, which makes him act proud or snobbish. Then there is gusto. Okay. Now, doing something with gusto means enjoying it or being enthusiastic about it. Okay. So, do I teach with gusto? You can see it in my voice. I can teach you this way. The meaning of the word gusto is being enthusiastic about it, blah 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 blah. Okay. But when I say, hey, you know what? The meaning of the word gusto is right here. Enthusiasm. I'm actually displaying gusto when I'm talking to you right now, and that's how I'm teaching you the meaning of the word gusto. So you see a lot of enthusiasm in this tone, correct? That is gusto. The Italian word gusto means taste, okay, and it comes from Latin, okay. Again, it means taste in Latin also. Probably Augustus means something of this. Augustus, okay, I'll check the meaning of the origin of this. It's just something that came up right now, okay. Now look at this. You won't do something with gusto if you find it disgusting, okay. Gusto is enthusiasm. Disgusting is on the opposite end of the spectrum. You have very strong negative attachment to that, okay. It's very unpleasant. That is disgusting, okay. So typically it's just bad taste, disgust, okay. So we'll summarize today, okay. We've seen close passages for which you just read the passage in its entirety with the blanks, of course, okay, and then take a call on what can appear in these blanks, then go to the options, fit in what goes where, okay. For this you need a very strong base in vocabulary. We've seen some root words, okay, to study this. Now, apart from studying from root words, because this is your ultimate vocabulary class, I also want to tell you something else here, and that is mnemonics. Okay, so mnemonics that's just a personal gimmick to remember a few things. For example, when American kids are studying the Great Lakes, what do? There are 5 lakes, by the way, Great Lakes around the Michigan area, if I remember right. Okay, so they make an acronym about lakes, okay. S is for superior, okay, and then L is for, okay, I don't remember that now, okay. So each of these Great Lakes, okay, are E is Erie, and K is, I don't remember that now, okay. So anyhow, they remember it this way, okay. So make up your own mnemonics. This is something that I can't teach you with, because everyone has his or her own mnemonic. Okay, so the American kid, typical American kid, tries to learn the Great Lakes, the 5 lakes, okay, uh, with this mnemonic, okay, Lake Erie, Lake Superior, Lakes, 5 lakes, one that starts with L, one that starts with A, one that starts with K, one that starts with E, and then one that starts with S, okay. So you can do something similar for vocabulary as well, okay. For example, how would you remember something that means thrifty, and then there is spendthrift. The interesting factor here is that they are opposites to each other. Thrifty means miserable. Spendthrift, on the other hand, means someone who spends a lot. Okay. The interesting factor is thrift, that repeats. Even if that is the case, it is quite opposite. Okay. So spend here is the interesting word. Spend, he likes to spend a lot, spendthrift. So make up a lot of your own mnemonics in order to crack vocabulary. Okay. So now it's CPP time. The CPP is a set of 10 expertly curated questions. Today you have 10 questions on vocabulary. Now it is the class participation package, and it is open only to Passport members. So Passport members, right after this class, go on and do your CPP. Share it with others who would find it useful. Okay. Thank you very much. This is your last, Clerk prelims class. So I'll be meeting you again for your mains courses, of course. Okay. So all the very best. Do well. Thank you very much.